bud? So today, I'm gonna go over the OneWheel Pint X. Been asked to review this, getting a little bit deeper comparison with the GT. So here we go. Start off here, you can see the size comparison between the two. All right, putting them right side by side. I didn't bring a measuring tape out, but you can see they keep roughly the same angle here, but I'd say you're cutting off 2 to 3 inches off the total length of the board. What do we got here? You lay it on top here. Come over here, bud, look straight down. You can see 1/2 inch to 1 inch, maybe wider. All right, so we got that. Let's see if we can get a good comparison of the two tires. Look straight down on here, bud. So you can definitely see the tires quite a bit wider. What do you think?
A lot wider.
So, so today I got my son helping me out here with a video. So hopefully it'll be a little bit better than what I'm normally doing here. Also have my daughter riding around on her hoverboard. And maybe we'll get some video of my son starting to learn how to ride this. He's already tried it a few times, but he's still got sea legs on it, so we'll see how that goes. So back to this board specifically here. You'll see there's a few modifications that I made to it. It does not come with a fender. This is a one-wheel fender. It's not from one of the other companies. This is one of their own. It works fine enough. The only problem with a fender like this, where you're going to see maybe the Craft and Ride mag fender will be a little bit better, because you can take it off easier. You can clean out debris in here better. Flight Fins also makes a great fender, where you can actually just slide it right off. It's just a loose piece of plastic that sits between the two flight fins. So those are some other options for this too. On the back here, I have the Cushnug High. It's a little bit softer than the hard plastic here on the back, and it's concave, meaning it kind of sinks in here towards the middle, helps lock your foot in a little bit better. Let's see. These are the Fang's front bumper here, so you'll see that you got these little tiny wheels here. What those are meant for is, it's good especially for newer riders who might nose drag. If your nose goes down and you touch the pavement here, there's nothing for this front bumper to ride on. In the same case as if you look at the GT here, if I land on this, it's just going to dig into the pavement. It's going to want to stop me a heck of a lot slower. The purpose of these wheels is hopefully that if the motor cuts out, you push back and you nosedive, this gives you the ability to maybe ride out of it depending on what surface you're on. So that's why I got these. Back when I was a kid, a long time ago now, I used to snowboard. Never really did any skateboarding, so I'm relatively new relearning all of this. I got overconfident, pushed the limits, and I ended up going down with this board at about 17.5 miles an hour. So that's when I researched the Fang Fenders as an option for that. Now, you'll see these fenders are a little beat up. Oh, and another advantage of these Fang Fenders too, I don't know if you can see it here, if you can focus on this, Tristan. See how thick this is? The front was as thick. You remove a little bit of that thickness here and you gain some ground clearance. Now this is an additional plate that Fang Landsurf sells with their fenders, so that you can scratch this area up and remove this easily and replace it rather than removing the whole front bumper. You don't have to get this. If I didn't have this on here, that would give me even a little bit more ground clearance, except that you're going to be right there at that rail, which I don't think is necessarily a great idea, because then you're going to be banging up your rail. Once we get a little bit further here, I'll go ahead and I'll bang the front end down so you can kind of see how these work. These will work okay on pavement like this. It's still pretty rough. It doesn't even really feel much better than banging down the plain front bumper. Smoother concrete, yeah, you can probably ride on it. There's another company I mentioned in one of my other videos that I'm looking into called Carbon Smith for the front bumper for that, which they have much larger wheels on the front. Looks a little bit more awkward, but it's not to the extent I like having, I've seen ones out there where it's like rollerblade wheels on the front. To me that looks too goofy, but the Carbon Smith ones look pretty good, and they're bigger, so they should function, and their claim to fame is you can also use them on harder off-road, like grass with packed underneath, stuff like that, and it should still allow you to kind of roll out of things a little better. They even claim, because of the bigger wheels, if you're going up a very steep hill, you can rest the front tires down on, or front wheels on the road and kind of roll up. So that is something else with that. And that's pretty much it when it comes to what I added. You'll see these are the rail guards. They're pretty banged up. This was my board that I learned to ride a OneWheel on. That's why this is all banged up. And you know, if I replace the bumpers and the rail guards and the fender, it's going to look relatively new. It's holding up pretty good. I have about 450 miles on this, so I got pretty comfortable on this. I'm up to about 50 miles on that, and there's a clear difference between the two, and I'll get into that a little bit here too. Let's see, also the X's come with the mag handle, which is nice. It's a pretty heavy board, but that's pretty comfortable picking it up. With also the Lancer Fang Fenders, you get this little lip here which acts as a handle for picking it up. The GTs come stock with a really nice handle on the underside. Let's see, something else you got to buy, which is a complete joke that you have to buy it with how expensive this board is the charge port covers. They charge like somewhere between $3 and $5 for these, and for how expensive this board is, it should just come with it. That's a joke that Future Motion's trying to make an extra buck off that. So we'll get into it. Just like the GT, you'll see you have the light bar here, and if you press on one side, it's going to detect pressure on that each side. If you press on both, you'll see it light up, and now the motor will engage. When you let go, one side or the other, slow down, it is supposed to recognize and shut off like it did there. Okay? So as you're riding, the way to stop this thing is the way I do it, okay? Is you either pick up your toe or you pick up your heel. For me, it's easier to pick up my toe as you're coming down, slowing to a stop. That'll recognize you're coming to a stop, your toe is up, because you're only pressing down on one side of the sensor, and the engine will kick off and it will slowly lower down the back end of the board. Now, both the Pint X and the GT have a feature called Simple Stop that you can leave on, which is great for new riders. In that case, you don't have to lift up your foot on any part of the sensor. You just you slow down, come to a stop, and it will recognize that you're slowing down, and instead of going in reverse, it'll drop the back end of the board and bring you to a complete stop. Great feature for new riders. So let me throw my helmet back on. I'll hop back on this. Charge time with this takes a long time. With a regular charger in full dead, you're looking at least the app says it'll take like 4 to 5 hours. To be honest with you, I've never sat and watched and timed it to see how long it actually takes. I've read that claims of the hypercharger, if you use that all the time, it'll ruin your battery. That it's more meant if you're taking it out on a long ride and you stop somewhere and you want to get a quick charge, but not to use it as your daily charger. So keep that in mind as well. So let me throw my helmet on. We'll hop back on here and go a little bit further into this review. All right, here we go. Me and my son noticed this the other day. A bird decided to dive bomb me. Gotta wipe that off, I guess. Luckily, none of it got through onto my bald head. But
would have been more funny if it did.
Yeah, probably. So again, I put my foot, I like to keep mine a little bit further back. You kind of can see where the dust is, kind of where I keep my foot lined up in the back, and I keep it on the front here. You'll see when you push down, the blue light, both sides are engaged, and then you just step up. All right. Now I don't currently have the simple stop on. I'm going to throw my son on here in a little bit. He's going to retry to learn this, and then I'll throw a simple stop back on for him. Now it's got decent get up and go as you lean into it. One thing I learned too, and this I was doing when I crashed, is it was really windy out and I was pushing against the wind and I was leaning that way towards the front of the board, which you really don't want to do that. You want to squat, get a little bit of lean, but keep yourself centered over that board. All right. Reason being is if you're leaning into it and it goes down, you're going to get sent flying even a little bit harder here. So try to tap these Fang Fenders down so you can kind of see it doesn't roll that great. Now this is rougher pavement, you know, but at least it's not snagging and stopping me. Is it that much better than the base plastic? The base plastic is still going to give way. You're going to beat it up a little bit more than what you're gonna with these Fang Fenders on. So they at least help with the protection purpose of it. And I do believe that, you know, if I had these on when I went down, when I nosedived, I may have been able to ride out of it. So let's see, something else I can go over. Longevity. Mileage wise, you know, we live in the Northeast, it's pretty mountainous. But if you keep it on flat terrain and you're riding not too aggressively, going between probably hovering around 12, 15 miles an hour, I've actually gotten 23 miles from a full charge out of this, which is awesome. Which is way more than, well, not way more, but a few more than what they even advertise. That's pretty impressive with the smaller board. I haven't pressed the GT to its limit yet, but eventually I will. So when it comes to range anxiety, you don't really have that much with these compared to the old Pints, which I think they were rated around 8 miles, which really isn't far. That's as much as the hoverboard my daughter's riding right now. So let's see, what else? Power compared to the GT. I knew it was more powerful, but the GT has a heck of a lot more power. A lot more get up and go, a lot more of a quick acceleration, and you feel much more comfortable staying at a higher rate of speed on the GT. Probably because of the wider foot pad base and the wider tire on that. Now with this being a little bit of a smaller tire, it's definitely more nimble. You can kind of turn sharper. You lean into it. It definitely, I'm a little more comfortable with sharper turns on this than I am with that. So carvability. Now the GT is still good. I mean, it's probably negligible. It's probably only those who put a ton of miles in that are really going to notice the difference. But you can see it's got a little punch to it. You lean into it. Braking, I've noticed, and it's probably the only difference where I've noticed that the Pint X is better than the GT is the GT is faster. So you're gonna see if you review online too, and the reason why I did that, of course, I'm still not the best at stopping the regular way. I don't know why. I have an easier time stopping without simple stop on the GT than this. I don't know if it's the size of the foot pad sensor. It doesn't feel like this recognizes me lifting my heel up quite as well as that does. So for newer riders, the easiest way to get off is just hop off like that. Yeah, you're gonna bang your board up a little bit better, but at least you're off. But stopping, I feel like I could stop a lot quicker on this. That being said, that board, the GT, is a heck of a lot heavier than this is. And I go a lot faster on that. So of course it's gonna take a little bit longer for you to stop on a bigger, heavier board than this. So that, especially for new riders, again, might be a benefit as well. Engine durability, no issues whatsoever. This thing is still a tank, runs great. I will sell this eventually if my kids don't get into it. If they get into it, of course, we'll keep it. But hands down, I do prefer the GT over the Pint X. I still love this board. It's a lot of fun. It's just the GT is more versatile. Again, I got 450 miles on this. I love it. I'm glad I started with this to learn it. But the GT is the better of the two boards. And maybe it depends where you live. You know, I'm not in the city, I'm more in the country here. So if you're in the city, this might be a little bit better. It's a little smaller, easier to carry, because it's a little more nimble. If you're in crowded streets, it might be a little bit easier to get around people and other obstacles. I don't have that problem where I live. So take that into consideration too. Let's see, one of the viewers had some questions. I think I hit all of those questions here. And maybe we'll stop it there. We'll get into some video here of my son hopping on here, and you can kind of see what sea legs look like when you first hop on here. And since we're talking about it, let me hop on here real quick and show you one thing that happens a lot to new riders, and it happened to me all the time. So you're up, you're riding, you start getting wobbly and you start losing your balance, and what a lot of people will do, all right, is they will step off with this back leg and keep the front leg on here. When you keep that front foot on, you're keeping the sensors active. So what wants to happen is the board wants to continue. So I'm going to do this on purpose. Hopefully I don't hurt myself here, but you'll see that'll happen. And if you're not prepared for it and you're a newer rider, what'll happen is a lot of times your foot will go out and you go down. Try, new riders, to get to where if you're going to do that and you feel yourself falling, hop off that way, because it's gonna acknowledge your foot coming off that sensor and it's just gonna shut off. It's hard because that's not, for whatever reason, at least for me, it's not my natural reaction. It's not what I'm comfortable doing. I want to take this back foot off for whatever reason. So I found myself doing that. So that's something for you guys to keep in mind, something for you, Tristan, to keep in mind once you get back on here and try this again. And I'll hop on the GT. I'll get some video footage of Tristan here hopping on for the first time. Well, not the first time, but it's been a while, right, bud?
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been probably a month, 2 months at least.
It's been a bit.
So we'll give it a try and we'll see how it goes from there. All right, guys, I'm here with my son Tristan. We're gonna start with the one-wheel Pint for him. Just to keep in mind, I'm your simple nobody trying to help you, somebody, determine if you want to spend your hard-earned money on this. So I'm gonna be straight with you all along. We just took a refresher ride with him, so he was a little nervous about being on the camera initially here. But this way, you know, he got a little refresher. He's still a little wobbly on it, but we're gonna do some video of him starting off on this board and still basically learning, because he's still relatively new to this, and going over some basic features. So I'm gonna turn this around. I'm gonna hop on the GT, we'll follow him around, and we'll go from there. All right, so here we got Tristan here. He's gonna hop on the Pint. Now, one thing I showed him, go ahead, put your foot on there, but don't start, is rock your foot back and forth. See how the blue line, you need it to be solid. A lot of people will step on it and that blue line isn't solid. If it's not solid, you're just gonna tilt forward and the engine's not gonna engage. So he's gonna hop on the Pint X. I'll be on the GT following him around, and we'll go over some things to hopefully help new riders get into riding these one wheels. So go ahead, bud, start it off. All right. There you go. So simply starting forward. Now, don't get too far ahead of me. I'll catch up to you here. All right, go ahead, head down the road. Now, one thing you'll see, especially with the newer riders, here, I'm gonna get behind you. You go ahead of me and I'll follow you. Is initially how to lean into the turns and stuff, and making sharper turns, because you're still unsure of yourself, which is fine. That's the way it should be. You know, so we talked over not going too fast right out the gate here. So taking it easy, hitting some of these bumps on the street here. So we found a road here that's pretty quiet, that we shouldn't have to worry about too much traffic with. So you'll see, as I told them, you want to keep your knees a little bit bent. Allows you to absorb those bumps a little bit better, allows you to control the board better, and allows you to respond to the unevenness of the road. Now, in a comparison with the GT and the Pint, that I've noticed is the GT, and I'm thinking because it's more powerful and because of the wider tire, is actually a little bumpier than the Pint X. It feels like because of that wider tire, it kind of wants to rock you around a little bit more. So that's something to get used to when changing from one board to the other. And how you feeling, bud?
Feeling good.
Like I said, don't get too confident too quick. For myself, I pulled a move like that, and that's when I went down. Is I got going too fast way before I was ready for it. Now, something else with a comparison between the two boards, where the GT has an added feature which is good for new riders, is it has a safety beep. So if I start hitting the top limit for speed on this board, the GT, it'll beep at me and let me know I'm hitting it. The Pint X does not have that. So what you have to do is really focus on the pushback. What pushback is the front end of his board, if he hits that speed, is going to start rising. That is what they call pushback, to help warn you that you're hitting the top limit of the board and the engine's going to cut out, and then your nose is going to dive. So that's something to keep in mind there. There's a bunch of different profiles when you go into the app. That was another problem why I crashed the Pint X, is I had it in a profile where the top speed was 17 miles an hour, I think. It might have been even less. It was one of the less aggressive formats for the ride style, and that messed me up. So you'll see his foot spacing is what he feels is comfortable for him there. He's got his left front foot is closer towards the end of the board. The back foot is like dead center there. Does it feel like your foot's locked in place pretty good there, especially in the back?
Yeah, I kind of use my right leg to steer.
Yeah.
More than my left.
So you're using your back foot?
Yeah.
Okay. Which, yeah, once you get going here, eventually it's just going to be almost like walking. It's going to be second nature here once you get used to it. And it's a matter of just putting time and miles on the board. The more you ride it, the easier this is going to be. And eventually you'll be hitting more and more bumps to where your body will just naturally respond to the board rocking, hitting a bump that maybe was unexpected. So go ahead, Tristan, and let me get up alongside you here, and we got the simple stop on. See if you can activate the simple stop. So just slow down, kind of come to a stop, stay on the board, and the back end should just drop down. There you go. So that's what simple stop is. You don't have to raise your foot. You don't have to do anything like crazy. You just come to a slow stop, and that is great for new riders. And even myself, who now I probably have about 500 miles total between both boards, is still sometimes difficult, especially on the Pint for whatever reason. Another advantage that the GT has over the X is the concave front foot pad. With the flat front foot pad on this board, I've had issues where I feel like if I hit a big enough bump, my foot rocks around on there more and it moves, and then I have to readjust my positioning on the board more often than what I do on the GT. Let's see. What else you think, bud? I mean, you're doing pretty good here. I'm telling these guys you're a new rider, and you look like you've been riding this for a while.
Once you get starting, it's pretty easy to just keep going. The only challenge is starting.
Yeah, so there you have it. Basically, you just got to get out and ride it. The more you ride, And look for somewhere like we have here where this is more of a quiet road. You don't have to worry so much about traffic. It's also, I mean, you got plenty of bumps here, and as you get going, you kind of want to start hitting those bumps. You kind of want to start carving, weaving your way back and forth on the road. So go ahead, Tristan, try doing a little weave here, back and forth, like carve into go back and forth from side to side on the road. There you go. Just like that. Now go back. Oh yeah, see, you're hitting those bumps plus with the carving. Now take it easy, not too fast here. Again, remember to respect the board. And stuff like that. So as time goes on, you do more and more simple things like that, and then you can get into hopping over some curbs or dropping off curbs. And you know, for me personally, I find my lines a lot more than trying to hop over something. I'd rather look for a path of least resistance than trying to force my way over a big curb or something else. Yeah. So I'm an old man. This kid here will probably come back better from a fall than I would. But so let's go ahead and stop right here, bud. Hey guys, so that's going to do it for today. Hopefully that helps you out. If we missed anything, please comment below and me and Tristan will get back to you. Ultimately, our goal is to help you decide whether or not you want to buy these boards. They are both very expensive. But that being said, you get proficient at it. They're a ton of fun. What do you think?
Oh, they're real fun.
So that's going to do it for today. I hope you have a great day. You got anything?
Don't forget to like and subscribe on the way out.
If you want to.